But don't you think, to make an intelligent point out of this nonsense, don't you think it's crazy that we live in an era where someone can like basically exist, like their eyeballs are being projected this nonstop pornography throughout human history? It's almost like all of techno society and development led up to the goon. The goon is the ultimate pinnacle consumer. The goon is in the heart of every sort of machine elf running through the circuitry of the modern world, and the goon will inherit the earth through sheer consumption of pornography.
Is the goon the last man? Is that the last man?
The goon is the definition of the last man. Because the last man lives for comfort to be veal wrapped in cotton ball and to be a human battery. The goon is the wirehead society, only the electrodes plugged into your brain to give you a nonstop drip of dopamine. The goon is the definition of the last man. The goon in the wirehead society, in fact, will lead us into the Thomas Ligotti oblivion, because why would you want to have children or even talk to these people? They don't even want to talk to women or anything like that because they're so busy viewing commodification of the female subject through pornography.
Yeah,
the goon will lead us into extinction.
Like, Gio, you jumped on that so fast.
A lot like incels.
Good Lord.
It's honestly crazy how much connection there is between.
I think there's some, yeah. Dan and I went to elementary school together. We grew up together, and we would always clash with politics. But now it's just, what are politics anymore? It's just, it's like WWE Raw.
Yeah,
no, because the politics of the spectacle. We live in the age of the spectacle, I think, and we need counter spectacles. That's the only way we're going to have any sort of
and then kind of like
restoration of humanity,
actual intelligent thought into the spectacle, like feeding a dog or something, like a pill, put it in like a little Twinkie or something, and feed it to him, and
maybe. But I think that we're dealing with conditions that. Because Lev mentioned The Last Man, and I think the problem with The Last Man that Nietzsche saw is that the problem is that the inherent modern condition is pulling towards nihilism. The way and the strategy of fighting nihilism with nihilism, or fighting the spectacle through spectacle. I get what you're saying, Daniel. I think it's somewhat of a gamble. It's somewhat of a very almost destructive strategy, because that would require an immense amount of psychological shredding of a lot of people that aren't capable of handling certain thought patterns or sort of alternatives to the way that we've structured Western civilization as such. And I think that the amount of psychic violence you would have to inflict on a lot of people is terrifying, but it's the question of whether it's necessary to awaken people out of their slumber. I mean, the fact that we make memes about the whole topic today about Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, that thing, the meme that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, that is a way of that's a psychological, that's a psychic disarmament of people, because the globalists made a meme out of it, and people laugh at it to ignore from the fact that we are run by pedophile demon goblins. I mean, imagine if the world is run by pedophiles. Contemplate that for a minute. Just really think about that, and ignore the memes, ignore the irony posting. I'm sorry, but Daniel, thank you for that great point. It's just I'm getting really excited now, so I'll shut up.
Well, do you remember?
No, hold on. Let them flow. Let them flow.
Yeah, own it, Gio. Own it. Just own it. Everything it is, own it.
Do you remember most excited I've ever seen?
What were you saying?
I truly think that we're not ready for the amount of psychological warfare that will require to break people of these thought patterns. So yeah, that's all.
Psychological warfare if we genocide them.
You mentioned Nietzsche, and in a very interesting context in terms of nihilism as being this sort of cultural dearth, or poverty. And while he was very critical of the age as it was. He did think that nihilism would be a guiding light in some sense that would lead us out of it.
Towards something greater. Yeah.
I mean, that's why he's considered a nihilist or whatever you want to say. I like that meme though that says, like, it kind of goes between absurdism and nihilism, and nihilism's like, but there's no meaning, and then absurdity's like, fuck you, I don't care, I'm gonna make my own. Like,
yeah, that's the existential dilemma going from Camus and so forth. My critique of that, I shouldn't really name drop Julius Evola because Peter Coffin was praising Humanica, but I think my critique would be that that sort of even Nietzsche, in some regards, near the end of his life, sort of admitted this in somewhat, that the problem with the existential approach is that there's nothing that has yet been presented that could offer the same pull towards beauty and truth that the previous systems, and particularly what he saw as the Christianization of the German spirit, as so forth in his lifetime. And I think I myself am a practicing Catholic, and I agree with that term, and that I agree with that critique, in that you can't just simply replace metaphysics with something of the earth. Even though you want to honor the earth and the Nietzschean system, you want to be ascendant of life, you want to honor life itself. I think the problem is that any sort of filler or ersatz way of meaning is always going to crumble under the weight of these various forces that are pulling at the human subject in modernity.
Yeah, the problem is that everybody pretty much wants to return to baby, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And everything, if you just think about everything around you right now, it just wants you to return to baby. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like I don't think that's actually wrong.
Thomas, so we were talking about Christianity a little bit, but as far as the America goes, right, which is a Western experiment, all the founding fathers were heterodox. They didn't believe in Christianity. Jefferson tore up a Bible and said, I hope discourse can make this obsolete.
They were Freemasons, so yeah.
EJ said that.
I think it's fine if people are free to organize however they want. Like, there are people that believe in prana energy, or like there are people that believe you can turn invisible, like your physical body, just from thinking.
Jules,
and I see no problem
with people
having any power if that's what they want. Like, frankly, I just think people should be free.
Jules, do you believe in anything?
Of course, I think everything. I believe in. I'll respond to it this way. Okay, Dan spoke about nihilism and absurdism, and the nihilist perspective is that there is no meaning, and I disagree with that. Just because meaning is a human construct, right, to explain existence, right, doesn't mean it's misleading to say meaning doesn't exist if humans don't exist. Like, if no humans existed, that's the mental proof for that meaning doesn't exist. It's a social construct, right? It's misleading, because all meaning is a tool humans invented to explain objective reality. I believe objective reality exists. So I believe that meaning, though it's an imperfect tool to translate our thoughts and objective reality into the most optimal explanation we can provisionally provide, doesn't mean that there is no meaning, there is no significance, nothing matters. I think everything actually matters, and I think people matter.
Jules, when you talk about objectivity, do you mean like public consensus in the Adorno interpretation, or do you mean something else?
Can you say that again?
When you talk about objectivity, are you talking about like public consensus, so like a majority understanding of what is true, so like an Adorno interpretation, or are you going for something else?
I wasn't speaking in that context. If I heard it again, I'm not sure if it would be excluded from what I said, though. All I was saying is that objective reality
What does objective
exists.
mean, though? Like, what does it mean?
It means that it exists the way it is, regardless of subjectivity.
So, like a theory of form.
So Jules, you are an object
outside of the sphere of observation of an individual.
I've heard on this channel people reinterpret the theory of forms for some kind of maybe Descartes type Neoplatonism worldview of, how would the afterlife work or something. That's not what the theory of forms is. The theory of forms is very clear. It's a statement about reality. And it says that reality is not real. That's the theory of forms. The theory of forms is saying all this stuff, none of it's real. It's a negation of reality, saying that unreality is more real than reality.
Okay, the theory of form stuff is going over my head, but what I'm asking about is, how do you define objectivity? Is it like the mainstream consensus on something, or is it your own personal experience? What I'm asking is, if you experience something and most people in a room disagree with you on what you just saw, do you consider the public consensus on what just happened to be objectivity? Or do you consider your own opinion to supersede over that of the majority?
You're using
That's
it
the
in
base
a different,
of Adorno's definition.
You're using
That's
it
what I was
in
asking
a different
about.
context. So I wouldn't be answering your question. I could answer a different question, but that's
Why can't you
not
answer my
what I
question?
was saying.
That's
Because language.
exactly
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because language is fungible. Words can mean many different things at once, and they mean different things in different contexts.
So
that doesn't mean meaning has to necessarily escape us.
Do words mean
I
things?
made a very broad statement about the nature of reality. When it comes to subjective experiences, consensus, those are different types of realities. And I think the word still holds and has great utility, but it's suddenly a fuzzier statement about objective reality than a more encompassing one that I
You're
was
using the
Okay,
word
cool,
objective
cool.
over and over and over
May I
again,
interject?
and I think it's fair of me to ask about what you mean by it.
May I interject? I think
I said,
saying.
so I
Wait,
objective
Daniel, what was
rea-
that? What did you
when
say?
I say objective reality exists,
An
I'm
idea
saying that if it exists the way it is, regardless of how about people existing or not, right? It's not a statement about perception. I'm saying that physical matter exists.
I don't think.
So you're a materialist?
My hot take on this is that I don't think
Essence. That's what he's saying, is that existence precedes essence. First and foremost, there is existence, then there is essence. Then we name the thing. The thing exists before we name it. The thing exists.
Exactly.
I disagree. I think we come first.
I know you disagree.
No, so Jules, I think, is an object, or you should look up some object-oriented ontology. It's the hot new thing in academic philosophy. This is essentially what Jules is positing, that the existence of matter beyond human subjectivity, and of course, a lot of them, like Ray Brazier, they talk about how subjectivity is gone. So, for example, when the Big Bang, when the sun supernovas and we're all wiped out, there's still going to be matter. So
I like your
if we're
Louis Armstrong
discussing
impression.
if we're discussing noumena, because this sounds like we're talking about not phenomenology, but like noumena, how does language figure into this? Because from what I understand of Wittgenstein, that's a really big limitation.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the OOO project is like explicitly against the noumenal, like what they call correlationism, which is your basic Kantian phenomenal noumenal distinction. They're like totally against that. At least Milasso is, but yeah.